Hello, everyone. If you are a regular follower of my YouTube channel, you'll notice a different background behind me. This is not my office at home where I normally record. I'm actually out of the country. I'm in Israel, in the north part in the Galilee, right near Mount Carmel. I can look out my window right now and see Mount Carmel. You can look on a map and find it yourself. And I'm here for 10 days of research and follow up. I'm going to be doing some documentary filming, and I'll talk about that along the way. And also going to Jerusalem and following up on a number of things there, lots of meetings. I've got DNA research that I'm pursuing. But I wanted today to particularly focus on Masada, which is one of the places that I'm going to go with a team of filmmakers. And I'm going to share my screen and talk about what I'm interested in at Masada. And if you don't know about Masada, you can learn a little about it. So here is my blog. It's easy to remember if you can remember my name, jamestabor.com. And this is kind of my central website for all sorts of things that I do, from YouTube to books, online courses. What about me? I have a whole thing about the Greco-Roman world of Jesus, my publications. It's kind of the central nervous system of my scholarly work. And this particular blog has a pretty good search feature, I think you would find. So if you go down here, it says search using keywords, and I'm going to type in Bones Masada, Masada, and I'll hit return there. And here you have a cartoon of me scaling Masada, dropping down into a cave. I actually don't think that looks much like me, but it does say Dr. Tabor in cartoon form. So there you go. If you want to see that, you can watch it. But today I want to talk about this Masada Mysteries. So I'll click on that and bring that up for you where you can see it a little better. Masada Mysteries, what do we know about the bones? Now, according to the historian, the Jewish historian Josephus, the last holdout of the first Jewish revolt from 66 to 73 CE or AD was this fortress of Herod the Great. It had been built by the Hashmoneans before his time, but he fortified it. This is Herod's palace. It's been excavated. And I'm interested in these caves right here. This is north, south, east, and west. And you can see that it's a natural formation, but the ruins of it from the time of the first century are quite substantial. And these particular caves, particularly this cave right here, these two, I'll zoom in where you can see up close there, this picture. This is a drone shot. We're going to go into these caves and talk about the skeletons that were found in that particular cave and the mystery about them, the things we know and the things that we don't know. So, for the past 50 years or so, there have been these major excavations at Masada, beginning in 1963, 1964, led by the famous Yigal Yadin, the archaeologist and Jewish general of Israeli fame. And according to the Jewish War, written by the historian Josephus, 960 Jewish defenders of Masada, men, women, and children, perished at their own hands the night before the Romans broke into the camp. And you might know the story. There's one snake path going up. You can barely see it here. There's a cable car today, of course, but you can still walk up the path, but it's been installed with safety devices, handrails, concrete steps, and so forth. But in antiquity, it was pretty treacherous this was the only way up. This is a sheer drop. The front of it, this would be north, south, east, and west. Sheer drop, sheer drop. And here you have down below where the Romans built this ramp. You see right here, these are the remains of a Roman ramp. It took them a year or so to build so that they could access the fortress and they wanted to capture and exile and probably crucify the men and send the children to the copper mines and put the women into slavery, maybe prostitution, which they had done already when they conquered Jerusalem. So there was something symbolic about this. You could say, well, just leave them there. They'll eventually starve to death and have to come down. But Herod the Great, the king of the Jews, who died in 4 BC, had fortified this fortress with all kinds of provisions. So they would have been able to stay there for years. Remember, Nero is the emperor at the start of the revolt, but by the time of the siege of Masada, the emperor is Vespasian. And the forces of the 10th Legion of Roman troops have already conquered Jerusalem. And there's something about, thumbing your nose at the emperor and at Rome's power by having this group of people still there, these refugees that fled from all over the country and came together. They were a mixed group. They weren't any one religious party or group. We think people from Qumran, the people who wrote the Dead Sea Scrolls, were there because some of their scrolls were found in some of these little rooms. There are these casemate rooms all the way around that were built for watchtowers and fortification. But the defenders of Masada in the years 70 to 73, when they fled to this place, used them for dwellings. And then you have Herod's palace in the north that is very lavish and amazing. So I'm not going to give you a tour of Masada here. That's not my purpose. But what I'm interested in today are these caves on the southern side. This is a high resolution photo taken by a drone, and this is actually one cave. It's got an entrance here and an entrance here. And in that cartoon you saw, I'm rappelling down. Now, it doesn't look very far down, but believe me, when you're up here and you start going down a rope, you're hanging over this drop off. And it's not particularly scary if you have the right equipment, which we had when I first went in several years ago. But I want to revisit that and talk about what we know about the bones. So let me go back to the regular size. So I'd like you to read this article, and that will help prepare you to understand what I'm after here. And one of the things I'm going to try to learn more about while I'm here. It's a pretty dense article. Here you see me all equipped to go down, and this is right after you drop off the ledge, and then you're kind of hanging by the ropes. And when you get down, you come down here, and then you can walk into the cave right here. That would be that entrance on the left, and the other entrance is around here. You can't see it. And this is the cave where skeletons were found. So I'll read this to you. The Masada Cave of the Skeletons, it's loci 2001, 2002. So you have 2001, 2002. It's mentioned in Yadin's first volume of the first season of excavations that were done in modern times, 1963 to 1964. And what was found were, according to the report, 25 skeletons in the cave, 14 males, 6 females, 4 children, and 1 fetus. The women were ages 15 to 22. The men were 22 to 60. One was over 70. The children were 8 to 12 years of age. 6 of the men were aged 35 to 50. They were powerfully built and so forth. Also, they're living in the cave. There's all kinds of foodstuffs and juglets, and they're essentially protecting themselves from the Romans. And it's very possible that this group was a break-off group that did not participate in the suicide or in the taking of their lives. You can read the account in Josephus. It's a very chilling account. And here's one of the few pictures we have of the piles of bones that were found in Cave 2001. They've been scattered by jackals, their bite marks, and the different bones were then all assembled and studied by the anthropologist Niku Haas. As you go on down, you're going to discover that the mystery here is twofold. First, what is this group that's in the cave? What are they all about? Why are they separated from the rest? And if there were 960 others, minus maybe the 25, that did take part in the mass suicide plan, and it happened to be the night before Passover in the spring of 73 CE, so that when the Romans got in, they only found the dead bodies. So, what's the mystery? It's what happened to the rest of the bodies. Are they buried somewhere else? Some have suggested that the story's fiction. Others have suggested that the bones were just thrown off the side of the fortress and they'll never be found. But there's also the possibility that they were buried in a pit somewhere. And that's part of the story that I'm pursuing on this particular trip. And later this week, we'll be up there checking into this with some of the recent information that we have. This won't air till next year, so I'm not going to reveal any of the new research that we found. But I would like to point you to this article because you're going to find that there's some real intrigue about these bones and these skeletons. And I'm going to leave it to you to read it and kind of educate yourself on this. And this in particular is a picture that has now surfaced. It was given to the anthropologist Josias by Ehud Netzer, the late Ehud Netzer, who perished in an accident a few years ago. He was a friend of many of us who work in Israel, very beloved, and he fell working at the Herodium from some scaffolding. But Netzer handed this picture over. He had been involved in the original excavations. And it does have either outside the cave or some think even inside the cave, this particular skeleton. And the way it's laid out, we think the bones were jumbled together, but it's the only one that seems to be fairly intact. That is, you've got most of the bones of the human body with the feet all the way up to the head and the head turned. And we think now that this was on a ledge outside, and we have in the past rappelled down to that ledge and filmed it with the team that I work with. And we want to continue to investigate that. And then you can read more about the bones that were found in the cave for sure, Cave 2001, and how the word finally came out that they were found and what happened and what we know and what we don't know about it. So that's one of the things I'm going to be doing while I'm in Israel. And in the future, I'll be reporting to you about that. But mainly in this video today, I just wanted to say hello to everybody and why I've disappeared for a while and won't be doing my regular programming. And hope you will stick with me. And as I go through the week, I'll be reporting on various things. I'm not sure, I don't think I'll do something every day, but every few days I'll catch you up. So read that article on Masada and keep up with me. And as we go, I'll refer you to other materials that you can read about and study. And I think you're going to be very intrigued with some of the questions that we're trying to answer after all of these years. I'm going to go get some needed sleep and try to catch up because we're starting in the morning and we're headed to Sepphoris, which is very near here. If you don't know about Sepphoris, I talk about it in a lot of my books, particularly the Jesus Dynasty, but it's 4 miles north of Nazareth. So when you think of Jesus growing up in Nazareth, I work on Jesus and his family and the historical Jesus and James and Mary and so forth. You got to know Sepphoris because Sepphoris is the urban center of the Galilee. And Nazareth is actually part of a town that's, according to Josephus, the largest town in the Galilee, south of the urban center, the capital of Sepphoris. It's called Yaphia or Jaffa, not Joppa on the Mediterranean, but in the Galilee, in the heart of the Galilee, in the upper Galilee. We think of the tiny little village or hamlet of Nazareth, isolated from culture, And it wasn't that way at all. Major roadways going through, all kinds of traffic and so forth. And we're going to have a drone tomorrow and be able to film some of that. And in my new book coming out in the fall, The Lost Mary, I present evidence that Mary apparently was born in Sepphoris on the south side, overlooking Nazareth, 4 miles to the south. So there's a lot to talk about, and as we go along, I'll be saying more and more about it. But for today, I just wanted to introduce you to the idea of some of the things that I'm involved in the coming week. Take care, everyone, and I'll talk to you soon again.